In Microsoft Word 2013, the power of forms that are available in electronic or an online venue happens by the use of content controls. Content controls allow the designer to build documents that have the following features, like a user interface that has controlled input, restrictions that prevent users from editing protected areas of the document, and data mapping, binding content to an XML data source. I'll discuss the user interface and restricting input into the document, but I won't go into data mapping. Content controls are available in Word 2013, 2010, and 2007. In versions previous to 2007, form fields are similar. Form fields are still available in the newer versions of Word under the heading of Legacy Forms in the event you need to build a document for users of older versions of Word. In Content Control Part 1, I'll cover text content controls as well as date picker content controls. To use content controls, the first thing we need to do is be able to get to the content controls, which is on the Developer tab. As you currently see, we have the Home, Insert, Design, so on and so forth, those tabs, but we don't have a Developer tab up here yet. So we need to go to File, go down to Options, and in Customize Ribbon area, we want to scroll down and look for Developer. And right here we want to select Developer and say OK. Now we have the Developer tab. And right here we have our content controls. Now, as I was talking about before, if you're working with somebody that has an earlier version than 2007 of Word, you would want to use these legacy forms, either the ActiveX controls or the legacy forms. I'm not going to use those today. I'm going to use the built-in 2013 versions because I think pretty much everyone I work with has 2007 and above. So I'm going to talk about the plain text content control. There is a rich text as well, and there's a slight difference between the two. But plain text is what we need. The picture control, content control, I am not going to work with the building block gallery content control. I am going to do a check mark, a combo box, a list, drop-down list, a date picker, and this last one over here is a repeating section content control, and I'm not going to work with that one today. So for the name of the child, name of the parent guardian, an address, a city, a state, all of those I'm going to use text content boxes. So first I'm going to click on the cell that I want, and if you don't see lines in between, let's say if I go to my design and I turn off my grid line view, you'll see that I don't have a border between the label of a name and the box where I want to put my content control. So for me to see it easily, I'm going to go ahead and turn on my grid lines. That shows me where the divisions are. So now I can go back up to my Developer tab, and I'm going to insert a plain text. Now with content controls, there is the content control itself and then the properties it holds. So what I want to do is click on Properties, and there is a title, a tag, show it as a certain bounded box, start in tag, none. So I want to put in the title of child name, and I'm going to use a strong style. By default it's usually paragraph font, so I'm going to go down to strong. That makes it bold. And another thing I'm going to select is lock the content control cannot be deleted. I do want the contents to be able to be deleted, but not the content control itself. I'm going to say OK. Here's what it got us. Right now we're in design mode, so if I started typing, it's going to type over this and not be a fillable entity. So I'm going to turn off design mode, and you'll see I just get something that says click here to enter text. I click, it says, oh, child's name, my child is Jane Doe, and you see I can insert data and it is strong formatted. And if I want to change the name of my child, I can. So I'm going to go ahead and do that one more time quickly for the parent guardian. Again, go to design mode. I find it easier to already be in there. Plain text, go to the properties, and I'm going to say parent name. Again, I'm going to use a style of strong and lock the content control. By default, we see that the default text is click here to enter text. So if I get out of design mode, you'll see click here to enter text, click here to enter text. Possibly we want something a little bit more descriptive. So how to change that is we do need to go back into design mode. Under right here where it says click to enter text, we can actually highlight it and start typing over it. Child's first and last name, perhaps. So now when we go out of design mode, it's going to say child's first and last name. So we're going to know exactly what to put into this box. I'm going to add a few more of the text box controls, and you don't really need to see that step over and over and over again. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, insert my content controls of the plain text, and come right back. Okay, I've added a few more content controls. So you see I have child's first and last name, parent guardian name, cell phone or type none, address, email address or type none, enter street address, enter city, enter state, enter home phone number, enter the credit card number, and enter the card's name on the card, and also enter any notes here. Now all of these were plain text content controls, and the only one that was different, and I do see I have a little bit of a typo here, that's okay, I can click on design mode and change that. For the notes area, I did change one of the properties. I did allow carriage returns for multiple paragraphs. Since this is a notes area, this might have larger content to put in. All the rest of them, I just used a default paragraph style and do not be able to delete the content control. Now that I have some of the information in there, I do want to test some of them out. So let's say 123 Main Street, and city is Anytown, and IL, and a phone number. I just want to see how it looks and see if things are large enough to hold all the data in there. And it looks like it's okay. I'm going to go ahead and do an undo for the typing that I did. Just leave it as a blank form because I am going to go ahead and save it periodically. Now the next content control that I want to add is a date picker. So the date of birth is indeed a date, and we have a nice content control called a date picker content control. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the date picker. I'm going to go into design mode again so I can change some of the properties. Say date of birth, and since this is a date content control, number one, I don't want it to be deleted, and I want to select what type of formatting that it's going to show up. So I can do a very long date, but that seems a little ridiculous. I can do a short date. I can do an overseas date where the day comes first, which I actually prefer. So I'm going to go ahead and click on 11 November 13 is going to be the style. If I wanted to change this at all, I could say YY to include the whole entire 4-digit year. I say OK. And again, since I'm here, I'm going to say enter date of birth. Now, when I'm out of design mode, here's my enter date of birth. I get this down arrow, and now I can select a date. So I'm going to say, I don't know, last week, and that will be my date of birth. Now I can change this. If it wasn't 2013, it was 2000, I can easily change it. But that date picker makes it very easy, and it forces a certain style to show up on the form. So I'm going to undo so it's just the regular clear field. And I do notice with that last content control, the directions that I gave it, as in enter date of birth, wasn't really quite clear. I knew to click that arrow, but is the user going to know to click the arrow to get a calendar? So I'm going to change it. I'm going to go back to Developer, go to Design Mode, and instead of enter date of birth, I'm going to say, let's see, click arrow, then use calendar. Maybe that will work a little bit better. I'm going to go out of design mode and see how I like it. Click arrow, then use calendar. Perfect. Now I can go back several years if I have to and click a date. I need another date field for the expiration date, so I'm going to go ahead and do a date picker, and in the properties area I'm going to say let me see, XP date, I guess we'll call it XP date, and this time I just want the month and the year because that's how credit cards expire. They don't generally give the day of the month, but it does give the month and the year. I'm going to say OK, and again I want to make sure that my content control cannot be deleted, and I don't care about the style so much for this. And then I'm going to go into design mode and go ahead again and say click arrow, then use calendar. Got to give them enough information to actually select what you need here. And occasionally I don't grab the right information, I just type, and I could tell that I wasn't in the description because it was bolded letters versus this nice gray. So click arrow, then use calendar. Let's summarize what we learned in Content Controls Part 1. We use text and date fields for the users to input data, and we restricted how the users would input using specific format for our date. Microsoft Word 2013 also has content controls such as lists, pictures, checkbox, and even a combo box. So let's dive into building some of those. Credit card type. Now the credit card type is usually, let's say, one of 5 different credit card types like Visa, MasterCard, Discover, American Express. So I want to add in here a drop-down list so somebody can just select the type of card they're going to use. So in our content controls on our developer tab, I'm going to select drop-down list. And I'm going to go into the properties, and the title is going to be credit card. I'm going to go ahead and use a default paragraph font. Make sure that the content control cannot be deleted. And I'm going to start adding some values on my list. So maybe Visa, MasterCard. And for each value, I just keep adding the values. Discover, whichever cards are out there. American Express, can't forget American Express. Now that we have a list somewhat going, I can reorder them. So if I put American Express on the bottom and I want to move it up to the top, I can just move it up to the top. Maybe I want these in alphabetical order. And then Visa would move down. Again, I don't need this, or I don't need this choose an item. I could leave it there, but that's not going to be one of the choices. So I'm going to go ahead and modify this item, and instead of choose an item, perhaps I put a different credit card here. This is also a good place to put some information for the person to select one of the cards. So I will go ahead and change it to clicked to select card type, maybe. Say OK. And I have a capital L in there, so I am going to change it to try and make it look nice. Say OK. And let's go ahead and get out of design mode and kind of see it work in action. So choose an item. So click to select a card type. So maybe I want American Express, or possibly, let me click out of it, pardon me, Discover. So it changes every time that I select something new. Now there is a content control. I could use a text content control for zip code, but perhaps most of my customers are in the same zip code location. And that means they're kind of in the same city location, but we'll try a combo box out here. So in the Developer tab, I'm going to click on the combo box. And what a combo box allows us to do is they can either choose from a list or they can type in their own information. So again, on design mode, I want to make sure that's turned on and go to my properties. I'm going to say zip code. And I'm going to make sure that it cannot be deleted. I'm going to say choose an item, and I'm going to modify this to say type your zip code maybe. And then I'm going to add one, and I'm just going to say and let's say by default, I'm going to move this up to the 90230 zip code as the default. Otherwise, it's going to say type your zip code. I'm going to say OK. I'm going to get out of design mode and I'm going to test it. So it says type your zip code, and I can just say, and it will accept it. In the other ones, it won't accept it by default. It's only allowing you to select something on a list, but a combo box allows you to select from a list or type in your own information. So one more thing that I want to do is, does your child need a uniform? We can add a text checkbox here to signify if a child does indeed need a uniform. So we're going to click on our checkbox content control, and right now it is not selected. So let's go ahead and click on it, and by clicking on it, it will signify yes, the child needs a uniform. If we need a little bit more information, we can put some text here that says yes. So let's go to design mode and say, does the child uniform? And the check symbol is going to be an X, or we can change it to anything in our symbols. Maybe we want a check mark instead. I'm not too sure where that is, so I don't want to take too much time looking for a check mark. But we could select something else in there. Maybe a fancy capital theta. So here it would be yes, but I'm going to go ahead and check it back and make it an X, or go ahead and cancel. But you can change it to any symbol that you want. So if the child needs a uniform, they're going to click on it to check that it's active. I realize that I just don't like the checkbox all alone, so I am going to go ahead and inside this area, I'm going to go ahead and click on the box, and I'm going to type in yes. So to add the text next to the box, I'm going to be out of design mode. I'm going to go next to the box on the right hand side, put a couple spaces there and say yes. Just type in yes, and then that way when folks toggle it, they'll know that they're toggling a yes. The last content control that I want to enter is right up here at top. I want a picture content control. And the difference between a picture content control and just inserting a picture is the person filling out the form can insert the picture themselves. So I'm going to go again to the Developer tab. In the Controls group, click on the Picture Content Control. Gives me a nice size picture. And that's basically all I have to do. So again, on the Properties, I want to make sure that they cannot be deleted. And I'm going to say Child's Photo. and say OK. Now when I'm out of design mode, see design mode's right there, child's photo. If I'm out of design mode, when I click on this photo, it's going to say, hey, please wait while we load some pictures, and it's going to go find some pictures, and I can either do it from a file, and I have 2013, so it gives me the option of office.com, a Bing image search, and then somewhere on my SkyDrive. If I had a picture on my SkyDrive, I could browse my pictures there. So I'm not going to insert a picture, but that's how you would do it. Let's review what we did for Content Controls Part 2. Content Controls allows our users to fill out our forms easily in the manner which we want them to. We need to test the form before releasing it to the public to make sure that our content controls are behaving the way that they should. We also can use the content controls of lists, combo boxes, a picture control, as well as checkboxes. If you liked this video, here are a few other titles you might want to check out. Until then, this is Lynette Mann. Be seeing you.